Those who would wish to join this program must be American citizens who have been permanent residents in the United States for at least 3 of the last 5 years.
The FBI continues to scour the nation's flight schools for more clues as evidence builds that members of the terrorist network attended or visited various schools around the country. Meanwhile, investigators continue to search several homes, most recently in the Maryland area, looking for possible accomplices. The Attorney General again saying that there is information that more people involved in the plot to pull off Tuesday's attacks remain in the United States. He also reiterated his plan to present a package to Congress to reform wiretap, money laundering, and immigration laws. And he is proposing stiffer penalties for anyone suspected of harboring someone under suspicion of terrorism. Judy?
Kelly, on a separate but related track, the FBI Director, the Attorney General, talked about their concern about a rash of hate crimes in the United States, alleged hate crimes.
That's right. The FBI has opened as many as 40 investigations following up complaints of arson and threatening communications, assaults. And the FBI director today said that they do have information that there may have possibly been 2 ethnically motivated murders. The FBI is also looking into those. The FBI director and Attorney General Ashcroft have urged all Americans not to racially profile, not to be violent against any Arab Americans. Of course, Judy, what this does is it diverts resources that could be going into the investigation and into trying to work the crime scenes in New York and Washington, and instead they're being diverted elsewhere. So this they say is not the time. It's never the time, but this is an especially sensitive time where they really need manpower.
All right, Kelly Arena, and related to that, President Bush visiting a mosque here in Washington, the Islamic Center. And back to Atlanta and Joey.
Judy, that's the latest developments on the investigation. Our viewers are also very interested in what is happening at Ground Zero in Lower Manhattan. Officers there directing search dog units tell CNN that they are beginning to find more bodies beneath the rubble. But rescuers say they will keep searching for survivors as long as there is hope. CNN's Gary Tuchman is keeping an eye on what is still called a search and rescue operation. Gary?
That's right, Joey. And when it comes to survivors, there has been absolutely no good news since early Wednesday morning. More than 5 days have now gone by since anyone was pulled alive out of the rubble. And sadly enough, many of the searchers who we talked to say they certainly believe there is potential for people to still be alive underground, but they do not think, for the most part, they'll be able to get to those areas where they're trapped. Some of the underground has been explored, but other places are too dangerous for the searchers to go to. And that is a very sad fact. Earlier today, the mayor of New York City, Rudy Giuliani, the governor of New York State, George Pataki, and the former president of the United States, Bill Clinton, toured Ground Zero. Mr. Clinton has an office here in New York City in Harlem and now lives in the suburbs with his wife, the junior senator from New York. They live in Chappaqua, New York. The mayor and governor have been here each and every day since this terrible tragedy on Tuesday. A short time ago, we talked with the police officer for the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey by the name of Antonio Scannella. He's in a squad of 9 people. 6 of his comrades are missing. There are 3 of them left. He has been involved in searching underground, and we asked him specifically about what the potential is to find survivors underground. Have you been able to explore all the levels below the World Trade Center?
No, we have not.
Why is that?
Rubble, different areas that are still unstable. We try to gain access to one entry and it'll be collapsed, and we try a different angle and we can't get in, and then there's still instability, and guys, to be quite honest with you, are worried.
So there's fear that if you would try to get to some of those lower levels, that the rubble would collapse and more people could be killed.
Yes.
Sergeant Scannella says he keeps a stiff upper lip while he's working here, and he's been here each and every day. And then when he gets in his car to go home to New Jersey, that's when he starts to cry. Throughout New York City, we see these haunting images of the victims on homemade posters posted on walls and on fences. I want to show you a couple of them. There are literally thousands of these. This is one that says, "Did you see her in the stairwell? Please call. Daria Lynn, 2 World Trade Center, 92nd floor, 5 feet 3 inches, 31 years old." And this one, missing Tony Savas, Port Authority employee, 72 years old, 5 feet 10, 190 pounds, thinning gray white hair, and then in the bottom it says this: "We love you." And I've also seen a couple that children put up for their father, and this I thought was really noteworthy. It had his weight, and it had his hair color, and it had his eye color, and it said 5'9", and that was crossed out, and they wrote in there 5'11" on a couple of the posters. And I started thinking, could that possibly make any difference in the search for this man, updating his height? And then I thought, would we do any less if it was our father? Joey, back to you.
Gary, the duty is very hard for all those involved in the long wait. Gary Tuchman, here's the scene of Ground Zero in Lower Manhattan. Thanks very much. Well, we have talked about the numbers at the closing bell on Wall Street today. The Dow down 685, NASDAQ down 115. Sharp numbers down, as expected by many observers, and particularly in the airline sector. Let's hear now what some individual investors away from Wall Street were doing today. CNN's Jeff Flock is at a brokerage near Kansas City at this hour. Jeff.
Indeed, just on the outskirts, Joey, the Charles Schwab here in Overland Park, Kansas. And I'll tell you, speaking of things that people have been checking, take a look here. Somebody had UAL. Actually, we were calling things up on the screen. This is UAL here. And at these machines are where people have been coming in all day checking on things. Now, as you know, we have been traveling across this country for the past almost week or so, trying to take the pulse of the country. Today, our finger is on the pulse of the market. I'm with a lady now who actually brought money into the market today. What were you thinking, and why'd you do it?
Well, I have a lot of confidence in the market, and I think the best thing we can do to help the economy is to just stick and see how things go.
Now, was this a patriotic investment on your part, or was this self-interest, figuring, hey, this market is down 600, almost 700 points, there must be some bargains in there?
Well, I've been thinking about it for a while, but I think this did kind of push it to the limit that it's time to do it, and I might as well do it now.
You have no worries?
No, not at all.
At least not here. Perhaps you can see this desk over here. This has been very busy today. This is where people come in. Most of the people, though, and I want to bring in Kirby Webb, who manages this office, have spent this day not doing anything. I mean, you almost were surprised that you had people coming in actually opening accounts today.
We really weren't surprised we were having people opening accounts, but the traffic has been a little more than usual.
Have you got people scared? Did you have any panickers who came in and said, you know what, I need to unload?
We really haven't. We kind of expected that because America is strong, and the advice that we've been giving our clients has been to stick the course and invest for the long term and be diversified.
But if somebody comes in and says, you know, I'm in AMR, I'm in UAL, I've got money in an insurance stock, what would your advice be to somebody like that today and for the rest of this week?
Don't overreact. I think right now panic selling is not the best thing for investors to be doing.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of any bargains out there, I mean, is this a time to buy? Because obviously even blue chip stocks have lost ground today.
I believe now is the time to be buying, and we'll just have to wait and see what course the market takes from here.
Kirby Webb, appreciate it. Thanks very much. We appreciate that today. Of course, we will, Joey, continue our trek throughout this country for the foreseeable future, keeping an eye both on the market as well as the rest of it. Stay with us.
CNN's Jeff Flock for us out at Overland Park in Kansas. In just about 2.5 hours, Major League Baseball will be the first of the major sports to resume its regular schedule. 6 games will be played tonight, and all 30 teams will be in action by tomorrow. As the teams return to the field, there will be some noticeable changes. The U.S. flag has been added to all player caps and uniforms. The caps you see here are being sewn by New Era, which is baseball's official supplier. Also, security will, of course, be tightened at all stadiums, and in many cities, the singing of God Bless America will replace Take Me Out to the Ball Game during the traditional 7th inning stretch. Joining us at this hour from New York, a native New Yorker, Jeff Greenfield. And Jeff, you know, I am noting that just a few moments ago we heard from Gary Tuchman talking about just the persistence of hope. And I think about those of you who are native New Yorkers. You know, we do on the outside view you as a pretty tough lot. And it is perhaps a city that is emotionally well equipped to cope with this incomprehensible business.
Yes, Joy, I don't know that any city, any culture could comprehend fully with this, but I think you put your finger on something. We New Yorkers do know that we are often looked at as a pretty tough, if not outrightly rude crowd. There's an old joke about New York that I'm going to have to sanitize. It's about a visitor, a tourist, standing in Midtown, looking around and finally saying, "Excuse me, Could you tell me what time it is, or should I just go bleep myself? Now, that's a joke, but let me tell you a real sign that I saw just today walking through the city, which I did this morning. You know how I know in parks there are a lot of signs saying, please curb your dog, and then they get a little tougher and it says, curb your dog, it's the law. At Theodore Roosevelt Park by the Museum of Natural History, and I'm quoting here, there is a sign that says, if you're not responsible enough to clean up after your dog, you don't deserve to own one. That is a New York kind of sign. And I think that very in-your-face kind of attitude that so has annoyed many of our politer citizens of the United States over the years is, in fact, giving us that some of that ability, and particularly the people at Ground Zero, particularly the people involved in rescue and caring for those who've lost their loved ones, giving them some sense of, by God, nobody's going to do this to us. We're going to stand up and do something about it. You see it, of course, most dramatically in our mayor.
I also think, I remember the first time I went to New York as a tourist, I was warned, as a tourist, you should not look up because it just makes you look like a tourist. If you're on the streets of New York City and you're looking up, you just look like a fool. New Yorkers are the people who have to stride ahead, as the mayor has done.
Well, you know, I've often said when I give talks that I say to my audience, good morning, or as you say in the South, how you all doing? Or as we like to say in New York, hey, what are you looking at? But there is another part of this that I think is very important, and you really did see this on display. And I'm again using the mayor as an emblem. Mayor Giuliani for 8 years has had a particularly kind of in-your-face attitude toward his critics. But you also saw in him not only that kind of grit, which has, I think, fairly been compared to Churchill during the Blitz, you also saw an enormous amount of tenderness. Rudy Giuliani, the firefighters, the police officers, people we think is the toughest kinds of New Yorkers, have been weeping openly at the loss they have suffered during the promotion ceremony for the fire department. And you also have that blend of toughness, sentimentality, and humor, that incredible funeral for Father Michael Judge, the fire department chaplain, where in the homily the priest was actually making light of Father Judge's habit of putting hands to bless even on people who didn't want it, a classical New York moment. And then just today, the front pages of our tabloids had this picture of Rudy Giuliani in a tuxedo walking a bride down the aisle at her wedding. Her brother was a firefighter who had died not Tuesday but in an earlier disaster, much less obviously, and she had said, I have no one to give me away, and Giuliani said, I'll do it. So you get this blend of standing up, being tough, knowing when to cry, knowing when to talk back. I really do think that has made a difference in this shattered city.
Understanding the people of New York, a New Yorker himself, Jeff Greenfield, for us. Thanks very much, Jeff. Judy.
Well, whether it's because New Yorkers are leading the way or whatever, Americans are rallying behind the war against terrorism. We've got the latest poll numbers for you when we come back.
What kind of beer you got? Food?
Anything else?
Haydn's Cello Concerto in C major.
Which performance? Gorski, Yachting, or Chin?
How's that possible?
Our jukebox is every performance by every artist of every piece of music ever recorded.
This is the technology that makes it happen. This is Riding the Light. Quest.
Point. Shoot. Create. The HP Pavilion 7970 with the Intel Pentium 4 processor. How will you use it? Save up to $250 by mail on the HP Digital Photography Studio.
Introducing new Kellogg's Special K Red Berry cereal. Crunchy sweet flakes, now with slices of real strawberries, right in the box. Looking good, never tasted so great. Kellogg's Special K Red Berries. It's new.
All vacations are canceled until the network integration is complete? All but his, I bet. What is it this time? Jumbles of hardware? Databases built on 10 different platforms in 20 different countries? Does he think that's news to me? Serve it up. Send it my way. Bring it on, buddy, because I'll get it done. And that happy vacationer, the one waving from the beach as your yacht passes by, that man